Why are you crying? Fenric was staring at me with a strange expression I had never seen on him before. Even when Ivan ordered him to cut off his own arm, or when Dietrich suddenly issued an order to go out into the forbidden forest, he did not show that confused face. In front of his strange features, Presepe had nothing to say. He, whom I had waited so long for, had finally regained consciousness. I should have asked him about the condition of his injuries, whether he was in pain after suddenly waking up, but my tongue would not obey me. When no answer came, Fenric quickly sat up in bed, without Presepe having an opportunity to stop him and direct him to lie down again. Presepe, but Fenric, who was about to approach her, suddenly stopped. His eyes were drawn to something on the bed. Or let's say, towards the small, forearm-sized sword that Presepe was holding. Suddenly, he realized the truth. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't know anything, Fenric said nothing. Instead, he slowly got off the bed, bent down and knelt down, until he was at Presepe's eye level, and gently extended his large hand toward her. Because I thought Presepe wouldn't remember. He said this while gently wiping the tears from her cheeks. But, if you had told me, if I had known, I wouldn't have doubted him when I first met him. Since our first meeting, I have never stopped doubting him. Even if you didn't remember, nothing would change. Even if you didn't remember anymore, I would still be who I am now. There were times when I felt bitter about everything. Because I alone kept holding on to that short scene, in which Presepe only had a fleeting moment, as if it were a precious jewel. But those feelings didn't last long. Even if you don't remember, I remember. That alone is enough for me. Even if I cannot say to you, as you said to me, I held up well, and I hope you do too. What do you think? Fenric said with a slight smile. I don't know if I had a good life, but at least I tried to hold on. Isn't that good enough? It wasn't all chaos, was it? She wanted to hug him tightly, but she finally remembered that he was injured, so she hugged him gently. You've held up great. She whispered, her voice wet with tears. You were wonderful. Really, from the bottom of my heart. The feelings were many and complicated. It was a matter of pride, gratitude, and regret for Fenric, whom Presepe did not remember, alone to remember that day and persevere with all his might to reach this moment. But among all those feelings, there was one that was stronger than the rest. After I was reincarnated as Presepe in the cage, I vowed to never deviate from the events of the original novel. And I did it. However, the story has changed. I was able to leave the Imperial Palace, a place that was a constant source of pain. I found a place where I can truly rest. And at the heart of it all was Fenric. That the only person I could rely on in this nightmare of a game was himself, the result of my one decision that I made freely. She had a lot to ask, but she didn't know where to start. Maybe because she didn't know how many things he knew. While she was deep in thought, her gaze suddenly fell to his chest, where light tattoos appeared between the folds of his black shirt. I would dig up a new leaf every time a fateful moment occurred. I chose the tree from the beginning for this reason. Every time I needed to confirm my resolve, I would add a piece of paper. Some of the papers were faded as if they had been engraved a long time ago, and some were new and vibrant as if they had been engraved yesterday. Maybe, just maybe. Each leaf represented a moment when the Duke decided to stand firm. Fenric realized where she was looking, and took her hand very gently. Then, without saying anything, he led her hand and placed it above the tattoo, just above his chest. I was afraid I would forget. Fenric said in a low, slow voice. I was afraid I would lose Presepe forever. That's why. I used to engrave it every time you came back. Telling Presepe the truth about her going back was not in Fenric's plans, but the moment he met Presepe's gaze that was following the tattoo on his chest, he knew that it was better to tell the truth than to tell useless lies. He didn't want to instill doubt in her heart. Of course, the conversation was limited to what he could frankly reveal. Moreover, the men in the story began to die one by one, and Presepe knew it well, this return was not the same, it was completely different. Since when? How long have you known about this? Her meeting with little Fenric was during the training stage, that is, directly after she was incarnated in the game. Since when did he know that they were doomed to revolve in this vicious circle? Since you threw yourself into the lake, Fenric gently ran his large hand across her cheek. I wanted to greet you, talk to you for once, and ask you if you remember me, as you said you held on so hard. But one day of celebration, you threw yourself into the lake in front of my eyes. I jumped in with you and saved you from drowning, but it was the end. Dietrich, the first man she tried to approach in the story, was the time when she decided to commit suicide after succumbing to despair from the brutal events and repeated deaths. And when I opened my eyes, I found myself in the heart of a warfield, wars that took place before the coronation of His Majesty the King, to control the throne. After that, everything was as you expected. I don't know why, but I realized that you were in this vicious circle, and I couldn't escape it either. I tried in every way to save you, but I couldn't get close. When the scenario starts, you can't control your actions or words, and it was the same for me. It was hard to imagine me standing like a statue doing nothing. Error, glitch, male characters who choose unusual paths develop a self. But Fenric wasn't a designed playable character, and even the information window that popped up when I checked his name in the tower the day we met said he didn't exist. This is because he was only a secondary character in the game, and was not given any settings. It wasn't supposed to appear at all. Perhaps the errors and glitches started since I entered the training stage like this, perhaps the Duke's existence had been a glitch since then, and he had to wait for this round full of errors to be able to approach you. I always thought, Fenric said in a shaky voice. If you were me, I would never be so cruel to you. But I would keep you close to me, and always treat you with the utmost respect. But Fenric's actions thus far have not all been a simple excuse to repay the favor, and Presepe has not been oblivious to this. Was it because I helped you as a child? Or, was there another reason? Was there another reason? Fenric paused for a moment, as if carefully gathering his words to make them sensible, and Presepe remained silent, quietly waiting for his answer. I am grateful to you for helping me when I was young, and also I was determined to return the favor. Not long after, Fenric answered Presepe's question, while I was grateful, and I wanted to return the favor, and I wanted to greet you, and I wanted to talk to you just once, I woke up to find myself wanting to be by your side, all my life, and even forever if possible. I'm not a complex human being able to accurately discern all those emotions, Presepe. I just love you. Fenric met Presepe's eyes directly and said, and I am willing to sacrifice my life to get to you, Presepe.